All right. All right, everybody. We're in Premiere finally. Okay, great. Good news. All right. So I am going to actually uh file close project. Yes. Okay. So as you log in, first time to Premiere, you're going to see this screen. This is basically the intro screen where you're going to log in. You're going to see there's a free tutorial here if you want to watch that, but I'm basically doing that. Maybe you don't have that on there. What we're seeing is pretty blank screen. All of the ones that you're seeing right here are my previously open projects. You don't have any because you don't have any yet. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at new project and open project. And of course, I've also I told we all want external hard drives. If you have your external hard drive, plug it into the machine because that's going to be a vital part of our first process. But let's start here with the blue button. Everyone click and open new project. Now, a project is what we're going to be able to work in multiple projects at the same time, but essentially a new project is going to be where we're going to start with anything. So most importantly, project name. Now, this is where this is going to be a critical part where this is where I'm going to teach you in Premiere about making good decisions in the long-term planning process. Now, how many projects do you think I have that are called untitled? Well, I mean, I have a bunch because if I want to do it fast, I just hit create, right? We would go down here and just hit the create button. But I'm going to tell you, the problem with untitled is then you don't know what it's a reference to. And someone like me who uses Premiere every day, all day, I have hundreds, if not thousands of projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name my project in a way that makes sense to me. And for me, I always think about the macro to the micro when I'm naming my project. So what does that mean? That means the macro. So what is it for? My client, I always start with my client. What's my client? My client's Gav. So I'm going to go and call from my first project Gav dash MCTV 43. That's our class. And then dash, then I'm going to name, so I'm going to do my client, my sub-client, and then I'm even going to go ahead and say intro, and then I'm going to go ahead just because I know about it. I'm going to say 2024. I'm going to add a date element. Sometimes we can even go ahead and say, what is the actual date? It's 01/31/24. Okay, that's a good naming convention there. You can name it whatever you want. You could call it project one, project whatever. But in my experience, I've done a ton of project ones, 8 years of Gab, so I'm not going to name it project one. I'm making it complex. And why is that? Well, ultimately, when I'm finding it later on, I for sure want to know where it is. Now, project location. This is the next most important part. Just looking at this, I can see that my project is going to save to the documents folder on the hard drive on my laptop. Well, maybe that's good if I'm using a laptop, but if you're using the projects, if you're using Premiere here at the campus, if you save anything to your desktop or locally on the laptop, what happens to the project file after you log out? It's deleted. So that means, and your project file is hands down the most important element that you're going to get in Premiere because it contains all the informations of your edits. If you delete your project file, you basically have thrown away all of your work. There's no coming back from your project from deleting your project file. Asterisk, and I'm going to say asterisk because there are ways I've deleted project files and I've saved myself, but we'll talk about auto saves in just a moment. Now, choosing where you want to save this, you can either go, it's going to go by the default, or you can choose location. Now, if you have an external hard drive, I recommend, I'm going to go to my external hard drive here. I'm going to start a new folder. I'm going to name it MCTV 43. I'm going to say, and then dash 2024. I'm going to create a new folder, and then I'm going to say choose. And that means anytime that I save my project file, it's going to save directly to there onto my external hard drive. That's good, right? So I know where it is as long as I have my hard drive. I have my project file. So then what we can see also is it gives us a whole bunch of options here. We're creating a new, it's actually, here's a bunch of footage that you're able to use as a tutorial that you can import. You can select the media to create a new project just by choosing that. I'm not going to do any of that right now. We'll talk about more of that later. What I'm just going to do is I've changed my name. I changed the project location. There's actually some project templates. We're not going to talk about that yet. But what we're going to do is now hit the create button. And we have opened up Premiere for the first time. Should be a bunch of wall of blanks. As you can see, each one of these windows correspond to something else that's important. But what we should note is down here, and your formatting may look a little different than mine because our windows can be arranged differently. Now, if you go up to the top and where it says window, you can click on window and there's workspaces. Now, all of these different workspaces, we're going to go through that in a future lesson, is just how the windows are arranged. Let's all select workspace and choose editing, just so it all looks pretty uniformly. If it's not already selected in editing, you should select it in editing. It should look, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 windows potentially open. You might not have the essential stuff open. Let's see. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. I see. Okay, great. Good enough. You'll follow along. Okay. We are going to talk about this one, which is our project window. A lower left-hand corner, you should have it. The project window is where we're going to start. And you can see that it says import media to start. Now, this is, all of us should have some type of media. If not, and again, if you need questions or comments, Jason's here. He'll walk around and make sure everybody's at a point that we should be following along. Okay, so import media. Now, what import media is, we're going to now there's multiple ways to import files into your program. And of course, we're a video editing software, so we're going to import video files. We're going to import audio files. We're going to import images. We can import a whole bunch of different file types. I'm going to go ahead and again, reminder people here, if you're following along, great. But once my lecture is done, you'll have time to do all of this again. I just want to make sure you're all comfortable here. So I'm going to, there's multiple ways to import your media. First and foremost, I'm going to double click in the window. It's going to open up a browser window here. And then I'm going to navigate into my hard drive where I know I have some footage. I'm going to go through and look, and I'm going to choose, let's choose, what I can do is it's going to show me a whole bunch of different project files I can import, and I can actually even just select a folder. Look, I'm not going to import the project that I can. It won't let me do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose green screen. I'm going to import that. It's going to import the folder. I can actually even go through and then import just a file there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to import, let's see right here. I'm going to choose from a different hard drive. I have multiple external hard drives. Let me choose, where's the Gav one? Okay. I'm going to choose Gav right here. It's going to import. You can see it's loading different types of file types. Let's see. And it's going to tell me, look, a couple of these file types didn't work. So I'm going to say, okay, that's fine. Some are just reference files, metadatas that might not necessarily matter, but it's giving me different types of files I can see that I can see here. We'll talk more about our bin. And actually, what I can do with my window format is I can actually go to all of the windows and I can stretch them up and down. And that allows me to manipulate the window just so I can see it better. So my project window right here, anytime I click into the folder, it's also going to open up a new tab in my project window. So if I make it wider, we can actually see that there's a whole bunch of tabs right here. But then it makes my other tabs smaller. So we're going to start right there. Okay. So now we've imported media, we've imported folders. The other thing to note here in the bin is how we view our bin. Now, if you don't have any media, like a hard drive that I have, and you're here, you can go through and see if there's like saved media on the project file. We're going to download stuff from YouTube later on, but just looking at this right here, what we can then do is change how we view our media. So right now I'm kind of on what's called icon mode, and that allows me to see that there's a folder, there's a media type, can actually scrub through this. I personally don't like this view. I feel like, especially when we get into a project that has a lot more information in here, then I have to scroll up and down and look. Green means it's audio. Here's a folder. I'm going to have project files that have multiple assets in it. So I'm actually going to change from icon view to list view. And list view allows me to just see more information. It actually allows me to do drop-down windows. And just by looking at these icons, I can tell what's a folder. I can tell purple is video with audio, and green is just audio. So purple is video. And then if it has purple and green, it means that it has audio and video, which most of our videos should have. All right. I'm going to go back to every time I open up one of these, it opens up a new tab. But in this mode, in list view, I can actually do drop down, and I don't have to open up a new tab every single time. Now, what happens if I'm at this point? What happens if I click on my audio video? I double click and it actually pops up to up here, which is our viewer window. Our viewer window up here now allows me to see my raw video. And this window is generally used to what we would consider a preview. This is before we want to make an edit. And why would we do this? Well, I want to go ahead and go through the take, and let's see, I don't think I have, do I have audio? Says I'm having audio, but I'm not hearing anything. So that's a great point to go. I'm actually going to go here. I'm going to go up to my Premiere here. I'm going to go into my settings. I'm going to go into my general settings. Now, the general settings are important. We're going to go over this next lesson more so what's the best settings. I just want you to feel comfortable with looking at how Premiere works today. But I'm going to go into my audio hardware, and just knowing this, my input, I has no input. My output's going to headset. Now, the reason I'm not hearing anything is it's trying to go to my audio out. What I want to do is I want to go to my, I want to go here, which is my HDMI, which means we should all hear it now. Yep. We can hear it now, right? Everyone in the class can hear it now. We should hear it on the recording. Basically, but again, system settings, if we run into that error, something is messed up. Basically, I was editing off of my laptop an hour ago using a pair of headset at work. And so I had my audio hardware. It was just looking at the old systems, what my last setting was. So now I've switched it. We should be good here in person. Okay, so why do I want to preview it here? Well, I want to listen to it. Okay, and what I'm going to do, these are going to be two hotkeys. Now, what a hotkey is, it's going to be buttons on the keyboard that you hit in order to, activate something in Premiere. And the more hotkeys you learn, the faster an editor you will be. And these are the two that I use the most. It's I and O on your keyboard. I stands for in, O stands for out, and we're going to set in points and out points of our video. So what does that mean? Is I'm going to scrub here, and basically I'm using the cursor to go from the start to the finish, and I'm going to hit I. And I means I set an in point. That's going to be basically I created my first edit in the clip. My first edit point here. And then I can scrub to the end where I want to use, and I can hit O. And now we can see that we have an in and an out point just by visually looking at it. The other thing to note that we did do is something changed here. And what we're looking at right here is a time code. This is where the playhead is. We can see that as I scrub, this is where the playhead, what's being played back, changes. That's the time code that's going to be automatically generated for every single video clip we're ever going to see. But this is what is our in and out duration or control code. And the control track or code tells us the length of the clip. So we can see that just looking at here, we have 43 we have 43 seconds and 23 frames. Okay, remember we talked about frames last time. Time code works this way: hours, minutes. Wait. Sorry. Yeah, okay. Hours, minutes, seconds, frames. Sorry, I got confused there. So notice that when I change my ins and my outs, what happens to the control track here? It now tells me my new duration of my clip. So originally the whole clip is 43 seconds. Now it's 16 seconds and 23 frames. If I go one more frame, how long is it going to be? Now it's 17 seconds. Why? Because this clip was recorded in the frame rate of 24 frames per second, right? We talked about how film is recorded in 24 frames. There are different frame rates. Your clips could be in different frame rates, but we know that this was recorded that way. Any questions so far? It's a lot. We'll talk more about it, but I just want to let you know, this is the viewer window. This is the project window. What else do we need to know? Well, let's look at this big window and probably the most important window of Premiere. This is the timeline. And the timeline is where we make our edits. Now, how do we make our edits? Well, we need something that's called a sequence. Now, I have seen many students make this mistake. You click and we can drag the clip from the top here to the timeline. Now, the only problem is it creates a sequence that is based off of the settings of this clip. I don't want anyone ever to do that. And I can tell if you do that. Why? Because the sequence is automatically named after the clip. So first and foremost, my sequence is now named A04C061, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm going to do, again, another hotkey. Command Z is undo. I am going to undo. I uncreated the sequence there. Okay, so then Tim, how do you want me to make a sequence? Well, I want you to click on your project file here. Oops, I don't want to import anymore. I want you to go File, New, Sequence. And also, when we're in all of these, the docking station and taskbars, just know that you can look at all of these and it'll show you the hotkeys. So if we look at this, a new sequence is actually Command N. So N for new. So we can hit Command Command N, or we can go File, New Sequence, and then we get this new sequence window. Now, what's important about the new sequence window is the new sequence window allows us to select the project base that we want to work in. And what does that mean? Well, are we working in 4K? Are we working in HD? Is it 4:3? We can select all this stuff here in the settings. I want to start with just the basics. We're going to go with HD, which is 1080. And we're going to work in a film frame rate. So we can see 23.976 frames per second. Now, Tim, didn't you just say most film is 24 frames per second? Well, I lied. It's easier to round up. Really what it is it's 23.976, but that's too hard to remember. So we round up to 24. For this, we're just, anytime I say 24, we're actually talking about this because it's the amount of film that goes through there is that. And we can see there's other settings, and you're going to have default. We can actually go in and look and see at different frame rates. We'll talk more about that in the future, but really let's just start with this. And then again, important sequence name. All right. What do we want to name this? Well, sequence 1 is going to be the default. And if you make a new one, it'll be default to sequence 2, sequence 3, or whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and call it intro 01. I'm going to give it an intro 01. I'm going to say, okay. I like to name them as my projects, especially if I'm working on like a feature film or something, I can make sequence in sequence in sequence. And what's interesting about sequences is you can drag them into different sequences, and we'll talk more about that in the future. But naming them are important because I will, when I'm lazy, and maybe I'll open up some of my actual project files, you'll see that I will open up something, it'll have 12 things that all say sequence 1 through 12, but then I'm working with multiple things, and I really wish I would have named it recipe 1 or recipe, lobster or whatever I'm working on, because then I just have to click through every sequence to find the thing I actually want. It's just a way to be more organized. Okay. What's also interesting is, let's say I named it intro 1, but I don't like the name. I figured, okay, I named it sequence 1. Well, I can actually go ahead. Okay, I actually wanted it in caps. And anything in your project can be renamed. I can even go in and look at my monologue here, and I can be like, oh, this is best take. I can say, okay, this is take 7. All right, let's rename that. Take 100. Okay, now what's important here, really, really important here, what Premiere does, especially with your assets, is Premiere, the way that Premiere works as fast as it can and why it can be as buggy as it can, is it's a program that is referencing your media on your hard drive. So what does that mean? That means instead of importing, when we imported your media, we actually imported a little file that points to where the actual file is located. So this is one of the big differences between Final Cut. When you import something into Final Cut, it creates a copy within its own project file. So that their project files get giant. The project files that we create here aren't going to be very big because we're just going to be making reference files that reference our media. So that means when I click here on best take, when I double click, it pulls up the reference here to the video in the viewer, but what it's actually doing is it's clicking and realizing this file is saved here on the hard drive, and I'm referencing it here. And when I play it here, it's playing a rendered version, a lowered render version of the file, so that sometimes we're going to work with really, 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 really huge files. And in fact, this file right here is a red camera file, which is a ginormous file, but I'm able to play it back because Premiere is actually referencing it and creating a render file that makes it play faster. Does that make any sense to anybody? Everyone looks confused here. It'll make sense because I'm going to show you what happens here. Now, I bring this up because in my project file, when I rename my clip here to best take, all it's doing is it's renaming the reference. So what does that mean? That means that when I go out of Premiere into the Finder and I go to my hard drive here and I go to, where was it? Where was this one? Right here, probably called Gab Green Screen, right? Or was it called Green Screen? Yes, okay, thank you. It was in monologues. And we can find the first file here, which won't even let it, we can see that it's a 4 gig file. It's a red file that won't even work in my preview here. But look what happens. It's not called best take, right? No, it's whatever the original file name is called. Okay? So why is that important? That's because what happens is, what happens here is, I can change it here in my project file as a reference, and it doesn't affect the root, the main file. But if I change the root, or if I rename it here as the main file, it'll break it in your Premiere. So what does that mean? That means that in Premiere, well, too bad for them. What does that mean in Premiere? That means that when I'm naming it, or sorry, what does that mean? That means if you rename your root on your file, and Premiere is looking for it, it knows, hey, this best take is located specifically in this folder on this hard drive, and it can't find it. It's going to be a broken media. And let's show you what a broken media is right now. So what I'm going to do with this best take is, do I want to do that? Yeah, I'll absolutely do that. Let me do this. Watch this. I'm going to take, what is that? A picture of a truck. Okay, that's on, actually, let me go to my desktop. Garlic oysters. Okay, I'm going to do this. I am, watch, I told you another way. There's more than one way to do everything in Premiere. I can actually open up a Finder window. I can choose my garlic, where to go? Oh, recent. Okay, desktop. I'm going to go to my garlic oysters right here. I'm going to drag and drop it. Okay, now I have my garlic oysters. Okay, but let's go back here and guess what? Garlic oysters, bad. Okay, I just renamed it. Oh, look what happened. I adjusted the original file, and now Premiere was looking for it, and it was looking for it in a very specific name. Because I changed the name outside of Premiere, now it can't find it. It's like I looked for this file type that was called garlic oysters, and Premiere's not going to automatically know. Now, is it wrecked forever in your project? No. What I can do is now we have our link media file, and I can actually locate it, and I can go in and tell Premiere that, hey, in my I know it's on my desktop, in my desktop, and in fact, show me everything. Okay, we're going to see a bunch of garlic. Is it by name? What's going on? I keep passing it. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Truck? No, where is it? Garlic oysters. So I found it, and I can say, okay. And look, it's back there. I relinked my media. We'll talk more about this in the future, but let me get to what I really want to show you before their time runs out. Is let's get from our viewer window here to our timeline. Now, multiple ways I can do this, but right now I'm going to click and drag. And when I click and drag, we'll notice that there are 3 things floating here. It's going to say, this clip does not match the settings. Change the sequence to the settings. Because I chose my sequence settings, I'm going to say keep existing settings. Now, what we're going to see is, whoa, her face is all giant in there, right? It doesn't match the viewer. Well, that's because her footage is in 4K and we're working in HD. And we'll talk about that in a second. But what I want to show you now is basically our sequence is built 2 different ways. It's built with video above and audio below. So know that we can see there's V1 and A1 goes all the way down A4. These are different audio channels, and V1 represents different video channels. And what's great is if I drag it up, it keeps giving me more and more and more and more and more video channels. And why would I use this many channels? We'll talk about this more when we get to editing. Again, here's our audio channels, and I can, of course, drag it down. Now, what's interesting, of course, is what happens if I move the audio left or right. We can see that now I have these red marks. And what's great about Premiere too is, like, if you want to improve your view on anything, I'm actually going to choose video 1 and drag it up. And now we actually have a reference of the video here. And if I drag my audio down, oh, look, I can actually see the waveforms, which is the audio. Well, now I can see right here, it says I'm minus 12.02. What does that mean? It means my audio is out of sync. And because the audio and video were linked together, it always knows that, hey, okay, now this one's plus or minus, it's 4 seconds ahead of this, and then it would be, there's the plus 13. Okay, so out of sync. So we want to keep everything in sync, and we'll talk way more about this. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys have been watching this. You want to turn, is it easier to turn the light off? Gosh, I wasn't even
I
looking.
was thinking about that earlier.
Yeah, Jason, help me out next time. Make it easier for everyone to see. Everyone shout out next time too. That's the first time I looked there. Okay. All right, let's take a do. Yeah. Yeah. Hide and mute. Okay. So if I hit the eyeball here, it actually turns off that whole channel. Why is that good? Well, sometimes I want to see what's above and below. Once we start checkerboard editing, we'll talk about that. And mute will mute. We will definitely have more than one channel of audio, and that's going to give us the ability to add music, going to give us the ability to add sound effects, multiple audio when we're doing music videos, when we're doing a whole bunch of different stuff. So we'll play around with that. All right. So also, that's our sequence. We'll talk way more about it in the future. The other thing that I want you to note is we were talking about our 4 windows today, right? So we have our sequence, we have our viewer, and we have our project file, right? The other thing that happened naturally when we put our project file, put our one clip onto the sequence, is we had this window, which is our program window. And the program window is basically going to show us whatever our edits are. So what our edits are is anything that we do in the sequence become the edits and become the final project. So even though we see that the clip in the viewer looks like this, we know that if we exported our project, this is what it's going to look like. So we know that maybe we need to adjust different elements of it. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is actually what we're seeing. And notably, what I'm going to do is let me just do a couple of edits really quickly. I'm just going to randomly do this. All right. Right. You can see I'm doing that. Let me go into my green screen. Oh, wake up. There we go. Have some green screen there. And you can see, look, that one has way more channels that it's imported. Okay, so now basically I've dragged a bunch of different assets in here. We did that by just clicking and dragging. You can also bring in edits by using these buttons here or hotkeys. And you can see there's a comma, there's a period, which either does an insert edit or an overwrite edit. We'll talk more about that in the next class. But basically, I wanted to introduce you to the windows and how to bring things in. Why did that? Oh, okay. Yeah, there's my zoom. Okay, now, but most notably, here's what's important to know is I started using my different video tracks, and my different video tracks allow me to show you how Premiere dominates video. The video that is on top will always be viewed. Basically, think if you're stacking something on top of another thing, whatever's on top you can see, and you can't see anything below it. So when our playhead is over here, we're seeing the little kid read the book, but we can see that, oh, the monologue lady is below it. But the second, and I'm going to hit spacebar, which is going to play. Okay, that's the hotkey for play. Spacebar plays my playhead, and we can see that the playhead moves. And as it moves, we can see where it's going in edits. Okay, and you can see that there was audio definitely over that clip. And we can. Okay, so this was a good indication to show how the edits worked. So once the playhead went over the part where this clip we went down to the lower level. But then when we got to this part where there was another clip above, it took back over to the top and then went back over to the woman there. But also notably, they're on the same line. Once Once we got to this point, which is an actual edit, and I'm actually going to zoom in here, we can see that it automatically cuts, and that's what an edit is. It's two pieces of media put together. Yes.
And the audio just plays everything under it.
Yeah, audio is not dominant. So audio is just layered. So the more layers you put, it's definitely, you notice that she's talking, but the second we get to this, once we get to that singing or whatever is going on, it's just because it's louder. And just by visually looking at it, I can see that these waveforms are more active. They're more up and down versus the lower waveforms here. It just is the volume. And actually what I can do with audio is I can actually, this bar here represents basically volume. I can drag it all the way up and I can drag this one all the way down. And now if we watch our edit, she's louder and it's quieter. We'll talk way more about audio in the future. Okay, yes.
Adjusted higher than its cap.
I can, that is, so I've dragged it all the way up to 15 dB. That's adding 15 dB is decibels. That's how volume is measured. I can raise it there. I can also, I will show you multiple ways to make it louder and louder and louder if you want, or quieter and quieter. But basically, I can also, like just right here, I can raise the whole, this entire level, this entire channel of audio 15 decibels by itself. That's on top of just the clip being raised itself. And then I can actually go down here to the mix and I could raise the whole mix up 15 as well. And then there's some like effects we're going to get into in the future, which I can talk about that as well. Make sense? All right. I want to give you some time to actually play around with it, but basically now you should be familiar with the project file or the project window, which is this one. You should be familiar with the viewer window. You should be familiar with our timeline or sequence window and our program window. Now we're going to import assets. I'm going to show everyone in class how to do that. Juliana, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in and on the chat. I'm going to stop sharing my window now. But this is going to be the end of this week's lesson. Basically, I want you to be able to start a new project, make a new sequence, import assets, and start playing around with editing. I'm going to talk about more of the refined elements, but please import something with audio, something with video. I want you to mess around with viewer and importing, and I'm going to go around and walk around. If you don't have anything, we can transfer you some stuff or give you hard drives if you want to work off of it, but you should for sure have some hard drive. Any questions or comments before I stop the lecture? The lab's open, of course, till about 4. So feel free to play around here as much or as little as you want. But basically, the lecture will be uploaded. And on next Monday, we'll continue our, I'll continue to go more and more into minute details. But any questions or comments here? Or Juliana, anything, you feel free to talk. But that's basic. Oh, while we're here, I'm going to show you a couple other things that are just notable. All right. This window right next, we talked about these 4 windows. I want to tell you this window right here is our audio monitor. So that, let me take that down back to 0. Let's go, let's lower this. The mix is at 15 as well. Yes. Let's go back to 0. Thank you. We're going to hit the playhead and just note that while she's talking, this shows us our audio levels. Now, what's a good level? Good levels are going to be here. And in fact, if I make my audio a little bit wider, it's going to show me the decibels here. Now, do we want everything at 0? No. it would be way too loud. We're happy, good talking area is somewhere between -12 and -6. You want something to bounce in between here. This is kind of our good area. We don't want it to overmodulate. It's okay if it gets really loud, and I apologize to everyone. I'm going to make it really loud.
The king fighting his wars. That is the way of dishonor.
Okay, you can see that bouncing into the red is not a bad thing, but it will indicate like, hey, it peaked out. And peaking means that our audio waves go up and down, right? Like, but if you hit too high and it'll go do what's over modulating. And I will show you for sure some over modulated audio, which just removes the highs and the lows and makes it sound really gross. We hope that our audio is not overmodulated when we bring it into Premiere, because we can make audio overmodulated in Premiere, but we can't fix it. It'll always sound overmodulated. Which honestly, our Gav TV news, Grant was a little overmodulated. His volume was too loud when we recorded for the lav. So just a tiny bit.
Yeah, there's a cut where Sierra's overblown, but that was the technician. The one on the mixer for leaving.
Oh, yeah, I was like, she was in the Gav TV news also. Yeah. And what's crazy is we'll see how much we can do with Premiere to fix things. There's a saying, fix it in post. That means fix it in editing. And there's a lot we can do just in this program that we'll learn over the semester. But there's sometimes a saying, garbage in, garbage out, that if you start with something bad, you could try to make it as good as possible, but it'll almost always not be perfect. Okay, I'm going to end the lecture here, and we're going to start to work here in the lab. But you feel free to work here online. Feel free to. I'll keep the meeting going. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Feel free to ask questions, but I'm going to walk around and talk to students here in class. Let's stop the share. Juliana, if you have any questions, feel free to ask right now. Or you can drop out and what we did today will be edited and uploaded. You're good. Okay. Thank you. Make sure to play around that you feel comfortable with Premiere. Okay, I'm going to ask for lights to be on, or at least some set of lights to help my old eyes walking around. But feel free to use the footage that they give you in the there. Okay, I talked about the audio monitors. You know what? I totally meant to show all of you another thing. It just won't be on the recording, so sorry. I'm still recording? Oh, great. Well, all right. All right, let's share it again. I'll edit it to make it look better, right? I'm sharing this. So if I do that, I'm no longer up there. Okay, the last thing I want to do. Share. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Yep. All right. Okay, I turn on the light so it's harder to see. Okay, the other thing to note is this window right here, which is your tools window. The tools window allows you all the different ways to access. Once we get more, and I'll go over this more next week because we'll talk about the tools. Basically, I've been in cursor mode right now, but the razor blade mode allows me to make edits within clips that are in the timeline. I have a text tool. I can actually do text. Okay, the text tool allows me to like type text on the screen. We got some selection tools. We have some basic edit tools that we can adjust our edits. We'll go over all of these in the future, but basically tool window, audio meters, our sequence. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and I will bring this up again, in my configuration, in my project window, I also have my effects window. And the effects window is something we'll use a lot of because it has all our transitions and our special effects. But just note, I just want you to play around. Okay. Questions, comments? What's up, Jerry? Oh, should have done that, right? No one's kind of getting it. Cameron.
Can you crop multiple clips
Yes.
at one time, like all together?
All together.
Like, yeah, if you want to zoom into the corner, but on your entire video, even though they're already cut, can you do that?
So you're talking about having 4 pictures, 4 different clips on the same?
No, like zooming in.
Yeah.
So if I, yeah, you.
Final Cut. I converted him, sorry.
Jeez. Okay. So I'm going to go up to here, effect controls, what we didn't talk about. So I want to crop her all the way down, right, to fit. But then look, I had multiple clips. I didn't do them all. Right?
Can you do all of them at once?
So if I select all of them at once, it doesn't give me that ability here.
You have adjustment window?
Yeah, but watch this. I can do adjustment window. That's a different way. But why would I want to do that when I can actually just go into here? I'm going to click on motion. I'm going to hit Command C, which is copy. And then I'm going to go Command V and paste. And then look, I copied everything. I did.
Okay. When you make it really obvious.
What do you mean?
Zoom out.
Look,
Really see it?
there, that's undo. That's how it was. Now I'm going to paste.
Um,
So I do that a lot. I do that with my, when I color, I usually color the stuff at the end. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go into Lumetri color. I'm going to,
That's too dark.
yeah, that's fine. We just turned it back on, but it's all right. No, it's fine. You're good. You're good. All right. Look, I colorized her. I'm going to go ahead and mess with some curves. I'm going to, let's bring down the black level. Let's do some color balance. Okay, let's imagine. Okay, so Cameron, in Premiere, what's interesting is anytime I can make an adjustment, here my effect window, now I have my color effect on it. And look, this clip versus that clip, pretty different, right?
Yes.
All right. So again, what I can do is I can paste so it matches. But now what I can do is can go back to this other clip and I'm going to select my Lumetri color and I'm going to copy and paste. And now I just color balance. So the clip looks the same. Make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah. I won't be able, I'll look it up, but, it's good to know you can do that. So I'm not gonna remember.
Yeah, well, and so basically, yeah, I just copied and pasted. So I did one clip, I copied the motion, and look, I could actually like select everything on the timeline and hit paste. Now the problem is I used a bunch of mixed media.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That means now something that wasn't 4K is now much smaller because basically we just shrunk her 4K to fit the screen. That's fine. But I'm just showing you. I didn't intend to look, and I did that and I did that. Okay. It wouldn't apply to everything unless everything was in the same, if I imported everything the same. So it's just something to be aware of.
I just wanna make sure. Right.
For your what?
I think what-
Overwatch. Okay. Cool. All right. Other questions or individual attention you want? I'm happy to walk through and take a look. You can definitely use here, I'm gonna turn the light back on, adjust your eyes. There you go.
Yes.
Ready to look? Okay, great. All right, here's the thing to note. I see, look at this. Here's a little tip and trick. All right. Look, all right. Her face is giant for the screen, right? I can hit Command and then click and it gives me a bunch of different options here. Yeah, right clicking. Yeah. I don't have a mouse. I wish I had a mouse. I'm usually a mouse editor. So what I can do is I can select right here, scale to frame size. And what's that going to do is it's automatically going to adjust your clip to fit within the parameters. Now, note that this 4K image is shot in a wider aspect ratio. So I still will have to adjust it, but this allows me to say if I bring in something that's small. So what's good about it is it took something that's big and shrunk it down to make it small. Now, what's good about going from big to small? You don't lose any resolution. But what happens if you bring in something small and you want to fit something big? You're going to blow up the image, and based on the resolution, it's going to get what, blurry? I can show you an example. Here's a great example. All right. Okay, why'd we shoot it so wide, Jason? I wanted a close-up. All right, and again, let me. We can kind of see that it's getting less and less, but you know what? Let's be even more dramatic, Tim. Come on, we can do it better than that,
Is
Tim.
that full resolution of the clip too? Or is that like?
Okay, so it is at quarter, but when it's paused, it's full resolution, right? So Premiere, okay, we're seeing it. Okay, look, we can see it way more, right? It's definitely more blurry. Here, I'll do that again. It's definitely more blurry. Again, we could turn off the light if we wanted to see it, but trust me, it looks bad. You wouldn't want to watch this in the video, right? And of course, we intentionally made it bad because we blew it up. 10 times the original frame size. But again, I can control click it and I can say scale to frame size. Oh, I can. Am I on the right one? What's going on? Oh, I messed it up. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna undo. Voila. Okay. Questions, comments? You can look, we can download stuff off of YouTube. If you have your hard drive and okay, how many people want me to bring them project files to work on or assets? You want assets? Yes, okay. What type of movies you want to work on? Okay. Horror, okay.
They want that in mind.
Your clips. I have you as Psycho, I believe, for sure. You can also bring your own stuff. You can download stuff like music videos are a really fun way to learn to edit because the music has a natural beat. So if you have a song you like, you can bring the song and I'll give you footage and you can cut images to the footage. That works. Okay. Bring your song and I'll bring on Monday, unless you have hard drives now, I really don't think I have stuff. I mean, I can give you garlic stuff, I can give you whatever. I do have some gaff stuff, but if you want actual film movie stuff, I can bring some of our student films on there. Yeah.
This is just a broad idea, but someday you think I could record us doing like a Smash tournament and edit that into a video?
Absolutely. Us here playing Smash?
Yeah, like a fashion.
Seems like, ooh.
Are you gonna bring a Switch?
Yeah.
How are you gonna record it?
You can put your phone connected to the laptops, can't you? You can record switches from OBS.
Oh, yeah. Do you have that on your laptop? Great, let's do it. My main's Kirby. I'm better than that game yeah.
Okay, if you Brawlhalla, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, I'm not good at Brawlhalla. Smash, which Smash are we playing though? All right,
What? Want a different one?
that's
I've
fine.
only ever played Ultimate.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not great at it.
Who's your main? Villager?
I'll
Oh,
play anybody though. I'll go random. and still-
Villager, give me a break.
I like dropping balls.
My kids, the only way they could beat me is if I play random and I get a bad draw, so I'd suck at Sonic, so. But you could probably beat me. Kirby's got infinite flight, so that's the problem, right?
Yeah. I like Max, but there's like very little.
Yeah, the Mac's pretty hard. Let's see, other than Kirby, who do I play? Of the new people, I kind of like Banjo. Huh? Simon's good. Yeah, oh yeah. Simon's Super Smash is fun too. Mess with Peach sometime too.
Big bet.
You good? You feel confident?
Okay, well, remember, this is what you're seeing here. So that's your problem. You want the clip to be up there? Okay, so you have to click in there to your asset, right? So the purple and the green are your video files. So double click on them.
So.
So look, now it's up there, and you can go in and adjust and pull those.
Yeah.
Makes sense? But then you make all the edits here, and then everything you do is gonna be up there. That's just a preview. Just think of it as a preview window, right? So it's because maybe you wanna watch the clip and just pull out the best part of it. And then you can drag and drop it on your sequence here. So, right?
So for me, what I use it for, and look, I'm gonna go back to here, my source window. What I end up using it for, project, is I'm going to go through and maybe look, I don't know why it's all loud, but what I'm gonna go through is I'm gonna say I want from here. And I'm gonna go, I'm just gonna scrub and I'm gonna see the book. Okay, I just want that single part. So what it allows me to do is now I can click and drag it down onto my timeline and just bring that whole thing instead of bringing the whole file. Does that make sense? Yeah. Remind me your name again? Mateo. Okay, thank you, Mateo. I thought that was that. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so now.
Yeah.
How do I open the code? Premiere Pro.
Sure.
Say, oh,
That's one way. Oh, wow. You just control.
what? Yes.
That's what I'm. So you need.
Or you can say something. Never used it before.
Oh my gosh, it did.
Did it crash?
Something else and say something.
It's their first.
Sure. I think it's just a survey.
Oh. Or like a villain VOD.
It's almost done installing, it'll automatically open and install Premiere Next, okay? So basically what you're installing,
This is kind of cool.
it's already running.
Unbelievable.
So basically what you have access to now
Unbelievable.
is you download, you sign up for all of the
It just
buildings.
ran.
The whole
That
thing.
means you have Photoshop now, you have After Effects, but you're downloading Creative Cloud, which is where all of the files are. In fact, I'll show it to you on mine.
Right up here is Creative Cloud, which did it just crash on me? Probably. Hey, I'm gonna was I still recording?
Yeah.